All right, episode 754 is brought to you by MitoLife's PUFA Protect Vitamin E product, the Relax Far Infrared Sauna, and Sir Thrival's Colostrum. All right, welcome, my friends, to episode 754 of Extreme Health Radio. Thanks so much for joining us. This is going to be a little different episode this week. I'm kind of bringing in some of the audio that we did with our Extreme Health Academy members, where every week on Friday, I answer, to the best of my ability, as many questions as we possibly can, and we get to kind of share together as a group. So it's a lot of fun. And in this episode, let's see, I have a list of a bunch of the different things we talked about. We talked about, the benefits of nasal strips and breathing with your mouth shut and sleeping that way, junk dots, benefits of ozone therapy. We talked about vertigo, which I was a little taken off guard. I can't believe I forgot about the connection to the adrenal glands and vertigo and ginger tea. And lithium and taurine, but I wasn't thinking about that at the moment, so I was a little caught off guard by the vertigo question. But we talked about blocking smart meters. We talked about the best way to take copper. We talked about healing tendons. We talked about methylene blue and DMSO and neuropathy and hyperbaric and strokes and a bunch of other things too. Lyme disease, cancer, and fenbendazole, parasites, all kinds of cool stuff on today's episode. So we kind of just chit-chatted as a group and shared a bunch of different things that may work for you guys concerning those topics. So I appreciate you guys listening. And if you guys want the links to today's show, everything will be available at extremehealthradio.com/754, and enjoy the show. Welcome, Bill, Frank, and Shelly. I hope you guys are doing good today. Doing great. Happy Friday. I wanted to share with you guys a few things. Maybe we'll let some other people come on. I think there may have been an issue prior to this because I was messing around with Zoom, and I think that prior to this, you may have needed to exit from another meeting, maybe. Zoom was acting funny this morning, so hopefully it's acting okay with you guys right now. But I wanted to share with you a couple quick little tips that I've been doing lately, a couple, little health tips, and then I can answer some questions after that. But a couple little things that I wanted to share with you, something that is really profound. Sometimes the most profound and impactful things in health are either the cheapest things that you can buy, or they're things that are completely free. And so one thing that I've been doing for the last maybe 5 years is using tape over my mouth. I'm doing mouth taping when I sleep. You can go online and there's different companies that sell these, but they're really expensive. And I found these, I've been using these for about 5 years, and I'll show you. You can probably see it in the chat room. I'll put a link in the chat, but they're like, I don't know, $15, and they'll last you maybe if you do it every night, they'll last you 4 or 5 months. And the reason why you want a mouth tape is for a ton of different reasons, but it helps people with sleep apnea, but it also helps reshape your jaw. But one of the best things that it does is it helps regulate the pH of your blood, and it allows for oxygen to be transferred via hemoglobin properly because the pH of your blood is altered when you breathe through your nose versus through your mouth. And then the other really amazing thing about it too is that it allows you to keep your saliva in your mouth. So when your mouth dries out at night, if you're sleeping with your mouth open, we're not meant to sort of breathe through our mouth like that. All of the immune compounds that are in your saliva don't reach your teeth. When that happens, plaque starts forming, tartar, and then you start getting cavities. And we know from the Chinese system that each tooth reflexes to a particular vertebrae on your spine, and each tooth also reflexes to an organ and vice versa. So you could get an infected root canal, go get some dental surgery, and not take out the periodontal ligaments, leaving tissue inside your bone that becomes necrotic. And then that festers and grows, and it's been related to cancers and all kinds of other things. So sleeping with your mouth closed to prevent cavities is one of the most, I think, easiest things you could do and cheapest as well. So I wanted to share that. And then I also wanted to share this little thing I got. I think it's like 12 or 15 bucks. And it's from a company called True Dark. And you can see there, if you can see that. And they're called dots, or not quantum dots, but they're called junk dots. And what they do is they're little tiny stickers that you could put over. See, I'll show you. And they have different like stickers like that you can put over devices around your house that block the blue light. And so I was reading some studies recently about how 1 photon of light, of blue light, can suppress melatonin secretion by up to 4 hours. And so we know that melatonin gets created in the body in the morning time. It's a daytime hormone that gets created via UV sunlight and IR sunlight from the morning sun when it hits your pituitary gland. And so when you have the production of melatonin happening in the morning, which hopefully you all are, like Paul does in his photo there, from morning sun, and then you leak it out when you're exposed to blue light, these True Dark junk dots are really cool. So I put them like on our air conditioner, on an alarm clock, any interface. And I'll put a link to that in the chat room, as well as the mouth tape. And then lastly, I wanted to share with you guys this, something I've been playing with a little bit recently every morning, and that is drinking ozonated water. And I have this, you can see it's called Creatrix Solutions, and it's an ambient ozone generator from the air. And what it does is it makes ozonated O3 water that you can consume. But it also, you can clean your vegetables with it. You can apply it topically on your skin. You can spray your plants with it. You can kill fungus and mold. It's good to wash your hands with. There's a million different ways that you can use ozonated water. Ozone, we know, is antibacterial, antifungal, antiviral. It helps produce catalase. It helps increase the production of superoxide dismutase, of ceruloplasmin, all that stuff. So it's all there from O3. And when O3, it becomes an oxidant inside the body. So it is really powerful to bring ozone into your life. That is like 250 bucks. Well worth it in my opinion. So anyway, I just wanted to share those things with you guys, and I hope they help you. I'll put links in the chat room, and I just want to kind of share with you some things that, like, you know, I'm doing on a regular basis. I'm doing lots more, but I want to answer your questions as well. So I wanted to share those things because, you know, these are cheap. These are like, you know, 10, 15 bucks for these junk light dots, and 10 or 15 bucks for the mouse strips, and they'll last you like forever. So anyway, I hope you guys found that valuable. I'll put links in the chat room to that, and hopefully you guys can hear me okay. And if you have any questions about any of this stuff or anything you're doing, just let me know. And I'll put, while you guys are doing that, I will put links in the chat room to the dots there. And then this one's an Amazon purchase. This is the mouth tape. This is 15 bucks, and it will last you probably 6 months, at least 6 months. I always recommend it. I've been getting a lot of questions about these two things lately, so I figure, you know what, might as well share them with you guys. The ozone water generator, highly recommend this machine. I have no financial compensation with them. The Creatrix Solutions ozone water maker, I'm going to keep using it for another maybe a couple months or so, and if I like it, I'll put it in our store and be an affiliate for it. So we might get compensated in the future, but I want to make sure it's good enough to go in our store. So in the meantime, I put links to those three things in the chat room. You guys got to mitigate and manage your light environment. Super important. All right. So if anyone has any questions, Paul, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing much better than I deserve. How about you?
Oh, I'm doing great today. Doing great.
I missed apparently the principle on which those dots you just spoke of work. I tuned in about, I think it was 6 minutes after.
Oh yeah. So that company is ran by Dave Asprey from the Bulletproof guy, and he's created a little solution because you really want to make sure that you're not being exposed to the wrong frequency of light at the wrong time of day. Because I was reading a study, I need to dig this up, but a photon of light in the wrong frequency can suppress melatonin production by up to 4 hours. I'm sorry, suppress melatonin secretion by 4 hours. And so it kind of goes along the lines of like exposing yourself to 6,500 Kelvin blue light, you know, in the middle of the night or at night after the sun sets, you know, prevents us from becoming tired and releasing melatonin. So, and this is the same, you know, this is true with any device like an alarm clock or anything we have around that has those little, you know, green lights on them or some sort of blue interface. And so, you know, I just cover up like our refrigerator. We got a new fridge maybe a year ago, and I just use these to make it all orange light on, you know, on the inside of the fridge, because you go to the fridge at night and it's all blue light, you know. So so that's a kind of the idea.
So how what I can't see is how that dot does anything. Is this covering a light, or is it reflecting something, or what's going on there?
Yeah, so different ones. So the black one, I'll show you. The black one completely covers the light. So if you don't want any light coming through at all, that's what the black one does. The white,
are the other ones more like clear lenses then?
Yeah, this white one, as you can see, I haven't even used it because that's not my, I haven't read the information on that, but I've been using, this is the one that I use, the red. And so it allows for only the frequency of light. I forget what nanometer it allows.
Probably 650-ish, I'm guessing.
Yeah, 650, but I don't remember the nanometer of light that the level it gets to suppress melatonin secretion. I forget what that one was, but basically what this does is it turns like a blue light into a color where you can still see it, but it's not going to suppress melatonin secretion.
I got it. Makes sense.
Yeah.
I thought they were all opaque, and I was trying to figure out how in the world this is going to work.
I mean, it's like, let's see, on the website, I mean, I've had mine forever, and they're $8, $7.95. I mean, like, what a cheap little hack, you know? Like, it's a great little thing to have. So, you know, sometimes lights, like, you know, in my old refrigerator, I put an orange bulb in there, you know, but in the new refrigerator, all these LED bulbs are shaped weird and they're behind some screen that you can't get access to. So I just put that right over the top of it, and it just works perfect. It's great.
Excellent. Appreciate the information.
Yeah. So I put the links in the chat room. And Paul, I remember something you said a few weeks ago about how if people come in after I shared a link in the chat room, the links aren't there. Is that true?
And you mentioned post that somebody's doing somebody's post on the when they load the video up. You're having your team now put the links down in some sort of narrative. But my point is, when you save this file, it saves as a .txt.
Right.
Now, if it's out if it's a true URL, then you could just copy and paste into a web browser. But if it's a short link or a hyperlink or a document, that does not end up in the text file.
Okay. Does it show up in the chat room itself or no?
Oh yeah, you got everything in the chat room. Okay. But the chat room goes away, as far as I know, unless it's somehow with the video later on when the video is posted.
Yeah.
Like you see on some, what do you call that? The YouTube. If somebody runs a live stream, it has a chat session with it, and it replays the chat exactly as it was when it was running.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So Linda said the links aren't there if we get in late. That's weird. Okay. Well, I just put all three of those. So, I mean, super.
Well, yeah. When you start, that's when the clock starts on your chat room. When you come in. If I came in a half hour later, everything from 1 to 29 minutes, it doesn't exist for me.
Interesting. That's so weird. I wonder why. It would be nice if I don't have to keep sharing the links, but I'll keep sharing them though. But for $8 for those blue blocking dots, and for $15 for the mouth tape, game changers, total game changers. So and then $250 is not a bad price for the ozone generator. So what I've been doing is consuming 32 ounces of ozonated water in the morning for the past probably a couple weeks now. And I like it. I like it a lot. It has a lot of uses too. So really, really powerful treatment to be able to deactivate viruses and to be able to, increase your immune function and all that stuff. So really, really helpful.
I may try and contact Zoom to see if there's some program update that they can engage to make that, bring in the Zoom from when it started. I don't know if it's possible, but I'm going to look into that.
I'll take some responsibility for that too, because if you go in to create these meetings in Zoom, it's really funny because there's like 1,000 options, and you don't know what, and they word them kind of weird. So it's difficult to figure out what they're trying to, do, but I'll look into it more further.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what's going on? If anyone has any questions,
I do.
Yeah. Hey, Born.
Hi. Hey, I have been, and thank you for taking my question. I have been, lately suffering from vertigo.
Okay.
And I believe it's definitely more positional, and I've been reading a lot of things about it, and I just wanted to get your input on addressing vertical issues. I've seen many things online from the whole. I guess there's some kind of a position maneuver that some people do, that doctors do, to have you lay down and turn your head in certain positions, all the way to people saying take more vitamin K2 because of the calcium crystals in the ear chamber. They need somewhere to go. They need to be properly absorbed by your bones rather than being in your ear like that. So,
right.
And also I've heard that it could be a virus as well that could have infected the area, in the ear. So I just wanted to get your take on it, if you don't mind.
Yeah. I mean, some of those it's sort of like tinnitus, where it's not really understood the real mechanism of it. And some people, have had good success with the vitamin K. I've heard that before. I've never really helped anybody with vertigo or known anyone with it, so I've never really researched it too much. But, like the calcium crystals, that could be related to a high oxalate diet. So consuming any foods that are super high in oxalates. Have you done that, or have you tried getting rid of oxalates from your diet?
I have. I've been looking out for the beets and the spinach. Okay. I mean, I don't eat much of it, but I know it is something that's in my diet.
Right.
But other than that, I know I don't go all out on those type foods. Uh-huh. So I don't know if it's an oxalate issue.
Okay. Has it been an issue for a while?
No, it started maybe a couple of months ago.
Okay.
It stopped and then it came back.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, well, what's going on here? So, then I've also heard, okay, maybe it could be high sodium, that a lot of salt could cause it too. So I've basically been watching everything I can so far.
Mm-hmm. Have you had any chiropractic adjustments?
I have, and speaking of chiropractic, I may be changing to somebody else because this person I'm using right now does no x-rays whatsoever.
Oh, really?
I just go in and snap, crackle, pop, and he's like, okay, you're good, and I'm like, that's it.
Oh my gosh. Wow. You gotta change.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. I mean, so have you done more vitamin K? Have you increased that? Because that helps with soft tissue calcification and making sure that, it does a lot of things. It helps create energy inside the body. Vitamin K is critical for so many things. Are you on that?
I am. As a matter of fact, I have this Nature's Made brand. It's a vitamin D3, vitamin K2 combo.
Okay.
So I'm using that. I also have the vitamin K2 by itself as well.
Okay.
This is and it's the MK7.
Good. Okay.
From what I was advised to do. And when I say me personally, I'm just talking about YouTube.
Right.
So, but yeah. But yeah, I'm on it. To answer your question, I'm on it. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what about your exposure to EMF?
As far as like, are you talking about it's in blue light?
Well, either that, I mean, that's a form of EMF that's non-native, but I'm talking about like cell phone exposure, Wi-Fi, smart meters, wireless routers, that kind of thing.
Okay, so I do have my cell phones. I have two of them. I do work in front of a computer, like right now. I work from home, so I am in front of a computer. I do have like Bluetooth, and so yeah, I do have that in my apartment. I do.
Okay. Do you turn your wireless router off at night?
No.
No. Okay. Definitely start doing that if you can. Are you blocking any blue light in any way as part of your overall health strategy?
I guess not. No, I don't. I don't have like a blue light blocker or anything of that sort.
Okay. I would definitely do that because there is a connection to our nervous system through the light that we're exposed to. Because as you know, doing research in this, we're light beings. So that affects our hormone secretion. It affects our pituitary gland. It affects our nervous system, our body's ability or inability to make energy. So anytime you have an issue like vertigo or tinnitus or tooth infections or cancer or heart disease, it's always a lack of the body to be able to create energy. So if you're exposed in environments like that, the reason why you are unable to make energy is a lot of different reasons, but one of them is going to be huge, which is the oxidative stress caused by being in an environment like that. So I would definitely try to mitigate the radiation that you're exposed to as much as you can. Okay. That means, if you have to turn off, literally unplug your wireless router at night, which is what I do, you can hardwire your internet for optimal results. If you can't do that, you can buy a little Faraday cage to put over your wireless router. There's all kinds of things that you can do to mitigate that. So, and I would also look at considering a blood donation, because iron overload is implicated in just about every disease. So so you definitely want to look into that as well. So if you have excess iron that's bound in the wrong places in your body and you're exposed to Wi-Fi, that's going to cause all kinds of misfirings, as Dr. Cruz talks about circadian mismatches. And so any metal that we consume is an antenna for Wi-Fi. So just make sure that you're, consider doing a blood donation. And so, yeah. I mean, like those are the things that I would do. And if anyone else has any suggestions on vertigo, but regulating iron, bringing more magnesium in, are you doing that?
I don't know. I don't know. I will have to look into my diet and see. I know I'm definitely not supplementing magnesium. No, I'm not doing that.
Okay. Definitely do that. That's huge. And something else that you may want to consider too is ozone therapy. Have you looked into doing anything with ozone?
Not at all.
Okay. I was reading some research recently. I don't think it mentioned vertigo in particular, but ozone is incredible it's like a Swiss Army knife as far as a therapeutic for the body. So if you can get to a treatment center and possibly do some ozone in different ways, like getting an insufflation in your ears, getting one in your nose, and getting maybe an IV, or you could buy a generator and do it at home, minus the IV. But ozone would be something I would definitely look into. And if you go to acam.org, you should be able to find a practitioner in your area.
Okay. Two last questions, and I'll and we'll go from there. One, Any tools or any software application that can be used for like I don't know if there's something out there like this, but like a blue screen blocker for like my laptop.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah, dude. If anyone is not, talk about, so at the beginning of this, I talked about like super cheap hacks minus the ozone generator. That's $250. But I mentioned the junk dots, which is $8, and the breathe right strips, which are $15. That will last you months and months and months. Same is true for this piece of software. Let me find a link to you. Everybody, in my opinion, should be using this because it's super cheap. You can run it on all your devices. And I'm using it right now, actually, on my computer.
I can see that you got it. We got the red color. I see it through your glasses. The red color.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's called Iris Tech.
Iris Tech.
Yeah, so there's a link to it right there. And I think it's like $15. They keep changing their model. It may be $15 for the year or it's a one-time purchase. I forget. But if you can just pony up and get like, 20 or $30 for, you could use it on multiple devices. This thing's a game changer. So I use, as you can tell, I'm wearing my yellow glasses and I have Iris running at the same time because, if you're blocking the blue light coming into your eyes, but you're not protecting your thyroid gland from the blue light coming off the screen, that's a problem because your thyroid is located, right under the skin of your neck. So you definitely want to protect your skin from blue light as well. So Iris Tech, great piece of software.
Okay.
It's a game changer. I don't know honestly how, like, if someone were to have removed that, if someone just takes that away from me, I don't know how I would be able to survive without definitely my glasses on. But my goodness, like when I work at night, it's zero. There's no blue light. It's all orange when I'm working at night. I couldn't work on a regular screen and then go to bed. I'd be up all night.
Understood.
Yeah. Have you guys tried Sir Thrival's colostrum yet? If you haven't, you totally should. I love this stuff. What I love about it, it has lactoferrin in it, which is a really powerful iron chelator. It also has retinoic acid, which is real vitamin A, which helps load copper into ceruloplasmin. It helps to seal your gut lining, improving digestion. It contains all essential fats, sugars, and amino acids. It's non-GMO, organic, grass-fed, and it also has transfer factor and immunoglobulins in it, so it modulates your immune system. Great for gut health. There's 4 flavors, the original, vanilla, strawberry, and chocolate. I like the original myself. I add it to my smoothies, coffee, ice cream, pancakes, shakes. The kids love it. It's amazing stuff. Check it out on biochargeme.com.
Okay. Well, that basically answers all of my questions. I appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. And one final thing too, if you're looking for EMF products and stuff like that, you may want to check out a company where I get a lot of my stuff from. It's called lessemf.com. And I'll put a link to it. Lessemf.com. And we had the owner of that show on our radio show maybe 10 years ago. But he's since sold the company. And I'm kind of glad he did because they've really increased their marketing and their website looks a lot better. It was 1970s style before. And so now they've upgraded everything, but it's a good outfit. It's a good place. So you can get clothing there. You can get, we got our wireless cage on there, our Faraday cage. So lots of cool stuff on lessemf.com.
Okay. Excellent. All right.
Yeah. So like in the room I'm in right now, which is the office of our house, on the opposite side of the wall is a smart meter. And so that's like, oh my goodness, right? I'm sitting here being radiated while I'm talking to people about health, right? It makes no sense, right? So I called our, company and got them switched to analog meters, the old school ones. So I was able to do that. And then I put protective barriers around them on the outside. There's a company called smartmetercovers.com, and you can buy little things to put right over the cover of it. So I did those 2 things. And then on the inside of the wall, from Less EMF, I bought the Y Shield paint. It's a black paint, carbon-based paint. And I did 2 coats of that because that protects from wireless radiation as well. And then I painted a 3rd coat, which is the white color of the wall, over the top. So you never even know that that black paint is on there. Mm-hmm. And then I bought from Less EMF, or I put some tin foil on the inside. And then I bought 2 products from Less EMF, 4 smart meters on the inside of the wall. And then I have a scalar frequency device, in the room I'm in now. So, you got to mitigate this stuff. It's like,
I see.
Not good, not good.
Okay.
So, yeah. But yeah, Less EMF got some good stuff there.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
Justin and Bjorn, if you don't mind, could I interject a little bit of amplification from the naturopathic source?
Sure, okay. Please do.
Regarding the vertigo, my reference is Dr. Peter Glidden. He's a naturopath who practices in Minnesota, and he, of course, has his website and his various programs, kind of like the Extreme Health Academy there does. And he mentions that the main cause of that, even though medical doctors will tell you it's idiopathic, it's more like idiopathic, it's osteoporosis of the skull, according to the naturopath. And Justin touched on the chiropractic, but Dr. Glidden recommends something a little beyond the chiropractic alone, someone who practices craniosacral therapy, as well as what we call applied kinesiology under that chiropractic veil. And also, as any time you have an osteoporosis, your calcium, magnesium, phosphorus is essential to be up on, and you gain that through your nutrients by eating well and hydrating well, etc. So it's just something to consider. And that vitamin K2, you got the right one, the menaquinone 7 is what that is, the MK7. It helps effectively place the calcium from the blood to where it belongs, where if it accumulates in the blood, that's where it mixes with your cholesterol and has the problem with that. And I would recommend not going low salt, just personal opinion there, because that's half of your constituent for your stomach acid, which digests your food in order to glean your nutrients. And when these numbskulls, MDs, put people on low salt diets, they're effectively chronically starving them of their nutrients. Yeah. And I don't know if it's just the system is designed that way. But anyway, for what it's worth, Dr. Peter Glidden mentions osteoporosis of the skull, and craniosacral therapy is definitely in order there, not just chiropractic crunching.
Nice. Hey, Paul.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, I'm familiar with Dr. Glidden. Did he explain the mechanism of action between vertigo and osteoporosis of the skull? Did he?
It's easy. When the skull loses its integrity, even on a micro level, the pathway through those canals in the skull that go to the ear are compromised, and the nerves, while they're not cut or avulsed or damaged as such, they're impinged. And it becomes a production of, you can have whistling, you can have hissing, you can have dizziness, you can have loss of hearing, anything like that is, and that's the mechanism, is where the integrity of the canals are lost and the nerves become assaulted to some degree.
You know what, Paul, that's so interesting you say that, because there's some connections between different, people that I think are warranted here. And that is the work of Dr. Jack Kruse, because when we're exposed to radiation, like from dirty electricity in the walls or anything like that, it breaks down the cell membrane, and it allows calcification to happen inside the cell. And so when calcium goes to places where it doesn't belong, it's obviously going to be not in the places where it does belong. And so we know that oxidative stress rises in the presence of non-native EMF. And so that makes total sense. Like, I bet you, I haven't read any research on this, but I bet you if you were to look at people who are exposed to Wi-Fi, they live next to a 5G tower maybe, or maybe they sleep next to a smart meter, stuff like that, I bet you their bone health is just terrible. And so that would make total sense. Some other things I would do for bone, I would also, vitamin K2, like Paul mentioned, boron is going to be really, really helpful. There's a great lecture on boron online on YouTube. that is, oh my gosh, it's really great. And there's a really great paper called "There's Nothing Boring About Boron." So boron would be helpful. Silica, copper, all these things help build bone matrix. And then getting off of the things and avoiding whatever environmental issues are causing the breakdown to begin with. But yeah, magnesium, silica, copper, sulfur, vitamin C, all of these things are really great for bone health. So,
All right, gentlemen, thank you. This is great information. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Justin. Thank you very much. I'll go ahead and get on it.
yeah, awesome. And thanks, Paul, for that craniosacral bit. That was great.
Yeah, we'll blame Dr. Peter Glidden for that.
Yeah, that's awesome. You could usually find practitioners of different things like ozone or ultraviolet blood irradiation, these types of alternative practitioners from acam.org. So it's acam.org, and there's a little link that says find a practitioner. Or you could just type in what you're looking for and your zip code into Google, and maybe it'll come up that way too. Okay, so Glenn asked, what's the best way to supplement copper? So I do it in multiple ways. Food is always the best whenever you're consuming something like a metal like that. Priming the system with food is always optimal. And so, but now I'm doing the copper sulfate pentahydrate, and we've talked about this before, but I can put a link in the chat room. There's, you can make it yourself for, I think for like $30, you can get enough copper that will last you for probably 20 to 25 years for a $30 purchase. You just have to buy the glass bottles, the little dropper bottles, and you have to buy the crystals themselves from Amazon. You can get them elsewhere as well. And then the measuring spoons or sticks, whatever itself, because it's very precise measurement. But that's how I do it. And I also, consume foods that are high in copper, like beef liver, mushrooms. I take desiccated organ meats, stuff like that. Yeah. Okay. So Glenn, that stuff tastes terrible. That copper. Oh my gosh. It's so bitter. So what I did is, on Amazon, you know what? I'll just put a link to it right now because I put that in there as well. But I put it in the 00 caps. And I just take it that way. And I don't even taste it. So I'll put a link in the chat room too. There's like 4 different things you need for the copper to make it. Let's see. Let me find that link for you. Amazon products. Okay, so it's like I put his book, Jason Hommel's book, in there as well, just for the heck of it. But so it's a 00 caps if you don't want to taste it. The measuring spoons, the glass bottles, and then the actual crystals. And I'll put a link there as well. There we go. So it's a little copper like equivalent of like a playlist on our Amazon thing, so you can just get that, and also get Jason's book. We did a show with Jason Hommel that I would really recommend you guys listen to. Super good about copper. Okay. Linda said, I had a knee injury, meniscus tear. No way, since little blood supply to the meniscus and healing is minimal. Are there any suggestions or supplements to improve healing? Okay, so this is like a question that's near and dear to my heart because I tore my ACL doing jiu-jitsu, and I had I think a 94% tear in my ACL. It was almost completely torn. To take copper. Sorry, I'm taking notes right now. So what I did is I avoided the surgery because when they do surgeries, this is something to be mindful of. For the ACL surgery, I could either use my own tendon or a cadaver tendon. Those are the 2 options, right? If I use my own tendon, that would be a secondary scar that would be on my body, which screws up the systems of your body and your circulation. And my tendons are really flexible because I do a lot of stretching, and so that wasn't an option. And so to use another tendon, my body would not recognize that DNA. So I didn't want to do that. Plus, they install metal plates in order to connect the tendon to the bone, And anytime you have a metal like that in your body's going to mount an immune response, and it's going to be an antenna for Wi-Fi and radiation. So I didn't want to do that either. So I started researching and I did prolotherapy, or sometimes it's called prolozone. And essentially it's ozone mixed with some other compounds. And I think it was developed by Dr. Frank Schallenberger. And you can find places in your area that do this kind of treatment. And they injected my knee with this huge needle. And I put it on our Instagram. I don't know if you guys saw it, but this needle was probably like that long. I mean, it was huge because the needle had to go into the center of my knee. So, and it stimulates an immune response to repair tissue. And you could do other things like regenokine. You can do stem cell therapy treatments. You could do topical ozone or topical DMSO, topical red light therapy, topical PEMF therapy to help stimulate tissue growth. I would take elk velvet antler as well because that helps stimulate new tissue growth. If you look into elk velvet and how quickly those animals regrow their antlers, it's amazingly fast. So you want that in your body when you can, if you want to get really tricky, there's something I didn't do, but you could probably get a liquid elk velvet antler and rub it in with DMSO topically and then apply some red light therapy to that. That would be extremely healing. So there's all kinds of things that you can do. There's a guy on Instagram that does, he's called Knees Over Toes, I think. Knees Over Toes. He's got a huge following. So you may want to look at his work as well. But I would go to acam.org and I would consider some prolozone injections. And then you also want to do things to stimulate the production of new tissue. Like I said, the elk velvet, but also stuff that's great for structure and like your skin and your hair and your joints and your nails and your tendons, all that stuff. That means consuming tendons, making a broth out of them and consuming them. That means increasing your copper levels, your vitamin A levels. That means increasing your sulfur and silica and gelatin. All those are going to be really great for helping stimulate new repair. And also it's really great for your hair, your skin, your connective tissue. So whenever I see people getting injured, I just think weak connective tissue. And so like athletes should be on all that stuff, right? To make sure their joints and their tendons are strong. So they're, LeBron James isn't twisting an ankle and tearing every tendon in his ankle, So that's what I would do. Topical PEMF, topical DMSO, red light therapy, all these things topically would be really helpful. And then you could also, if you want to go a step further, consider things like acupuncture, stuff like that. But between the internal stuff, the topical stuff, and treatment type stuff like the knees over toes guy, you could make a lot of headway. I probably healed mine, I would say about 95%. I can still feel it, and it's not nearly as good as surgery. I will admit that. But I don't want to have metal plates in my body, and I don't want to have scars, and I don't want to have someone else's DNA in my body as a tendon. So, but yeah, so Paul's mentioning light therapy, 850 to 660 to 850 nanometers. That's one of the things. I have like a light machine here that,
I would say those are discrete frequencies as opposed to a range. You'll have some bulbs that are 850 and some bulbs that are 660.
Light therapy is huge because it gets deep and penetrates deep, and acupuncture.
850 is the infrared.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's devices that you can get that produce that. So, or you can go to a place like, I think for PEMF, those machines are pretty expensive, but you can get a SOTA magnetic pulsar for a couple $100. And then the other ones can go up to like $25,000 depending on what you get. So for $250, you can get a SOTA Instruments, SOTA Instruments one, which is, I have it here. You probably can see this is the applicator. And, I would use something like that. Or there's a website called pulsecenters.com. that you could maybe find a location in your area that does PEMF therapy as well. But those
With
are
the weight of that paddle, it's a good self-defense weapon too.
I know, right? Yeah, there's all kinds of cool things that you could do, you know. So I think I'm going to get another round of prolozone myself, and maybe even some stem cells, because like I said, I'm about 95%. And so I'll probably do another round. I mean, that was 2008 when I did that. So I think it's time to get another session going. Healing tendons. Okay. So I hope, who asked that question? I hope that helped. If you have any other questions, let me know. That was Linda. Linda, are you still here? Yeah, you're still here. Okay, cool. Yeah, but so, you know, for me, when it comes to this kind of stuff, like if I did all of what I just mentioned and it didn't work, and I needed to have, like, you know, maybe I was an athlete or something like that, and I needed to have that, I would probably do it all again, you know? And then if it didn't work again, all that stuff, then I would probably go get surgery. But I would use surgery as a last resort, because we do have so many options without surgery, you know, between different therapies, chiropractic, acupuncture, stem cells, regenikine, prolozone, you know, all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, you know, I was listening to someone talk about recently injecting methylene blue into vertebrae in the back to heal back pain. So, you know, there's things out there that, you know, a couple of days ago, I was researching Ed Group. We've had him on our show, and, you know, in urine therapy, you know, and there's methods of healing that we just have never heard about, you know, and I've read the book, you know, Your Own Perfect Medicine, you know, probably 10 years ago. And I just wanted to refresh some information, but there's different ways of utilizing cheap things. And I had never heard of injecting methylene blue into your vertebrae before, and I wouldn't recommend it, but it was just something that I heard, and people have had really great success with lower back pain from that. But I mean, it's crazy, right? So
I've been doing a lot of physical therapy, and that's helped a lot, but it's only to a certain level. It's kind of like, now it's hard for me to like get down on my knee. I tripped over a dog and just fell onto a very hard floor, on kind of on this, I didn't even hit my knee, but the bone that goes from your knee down your calf on that side. And apparently that's what happened. I mean, I could barely get up at the time, but then I didn't notice it being severe. And then I was at the point where I couldn't even walk. It was so painful. So, yeah.
Oh my gosh. I hear you. You know, when I was training jiu-jitsu, I was training a friend for a tournament he was doing, and my knee just buckled. Like it almost just broke my whole leg. And I heard it internally. Like I can still hear that snap inside my body, you know, like if you ever break a bone or a tendon like that. And I couldn't walk, and, you know, it was terrible. I was on crutches for a while, and but I'm telling you, if you do some of this stuff, the elk velvet, make sure to get on that. You know, the red light, you know, the prolozone, the regenikine, the stem cells. You have so many options for healing. So just, you know, and then while you're doing the topical treatments, I would also recommend like doing all the internal stuff, like the gelatin, the vitamin C, the sulfur, the silica, let's see, all the other things to help stimulate new tissue production. Really helpful. Oat straw tea is what, you know, would be extremely helpful for you as well. But yeah, you can heal this stuff. You know, doctors will tell you you can't heal. You know, the doctor told me that, like, oh, once that, you know, ACL is torn inside, the body has no way to regenerate that tissue. It's just not true. It's not true. So just keep going, Linda. Keep going. Okay, so we have, let's see.
Can I add something to that, Justin? Chris here. What's going on, man?
Yeah, nothing much.
One of the things that I do for people that are recovering from these types of injuries, just a really simple thing, is something called a floss band.
Okay.
a bunch of different companies make them. Rogue could be one of them. You can get them on Amazon, and there's different like tensile strengths. But essentially, all you do is compression wrap and then unwrap, compression wrap and unwrap. And what you would do is do that as many times throughout the day as you possibly could, and that creates this pumping mechanism out of the joint. And we're going to get good lymphatic flow, good blood flow. We're going to rehydrate the joint. So in conjunction with all those tools, get the blood flowing in that joint as much as possible, and then that wrap and unwrap and mobilization could act as a pump. So,
dude, that's awesome. What's it called?
A floss band. Rogue, or the strength conditioning company Rogue, calls it a voodoo band.
Okay.
Everybody's got a different name for it. It's a roll, and it's about, I don't know, 2 inches wide. It's very stretchy, and you want to do like 50% stretch, 50% wrap, and get it tight, and you'll mobilize until you start to kind of get tingly in the foot. You might lose a little bit of feeling, then you'll bust it off, and do whatever you can do. I mean, some people can stand during this, some people cannot. But even if it's just a little bit of knee flexion and extension, and then you'll add weight to it as far as body weight, and then you'll add movement to it, and then potentially even do that while you're doing an actual lifting drill. Okay. I've seen it do just miracles for as well as the nervous system. So it'll interrupt that nervous system signaling of kind of panic. If the pain's not necessary at the time, it will help people. It'll help delineate real pain from just chronic pain that's there as kind of a stuck pain, if you will, too.
And so how many times per day do you wrap it, and for how long each time?
It depends on the person and the situation, but I encourage people that are recovering from surgery or a tear or something like that to do it as many times as possible, like all day. Like just do it. I mean, yeah.
And then how long do you leave it on each time?
It depends on the joint and you got to be careful. I'm not terribly educated on the advanced anatomy of some of these major blood flow areas, but as far as the knee, I would just say until the foot gets a little tingly, and then I'll have people pop it off. But the mobility during this helps a lot too. So yeah, just rushing a bunch of good stuff back to the joint.
That's awesome. See, it's like stuff like this, and like that guy, I think that guy, the knees over toes on Instagram, has mentioned that.
He's the man
as well.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of different like therapies you can do, internal, external stuff. I mean, the problem is people rush right into surgery, right? And thinking that's the only thing that's going to fix, things. Something I would do, this is something that like when you understand sort of like how the body heals, you can start combining things that no one has ever tried or thought of before. But here's what I would do. I would get a bee venom therapy injection. It's called apitherapy, apitherapy, apitherapy. And Dr. Klinghardt talks a lot about this in terms of like the crown of thorns, that he'll do them on your head for people that have like brain cancers or autism, because the venom in the bee, we did a whole show on this. It's the only show we've ever done on bee venom therapy, but we went deep into it. And it basically, the compounds in the bee venom stimulate an immune response similar to what the ozone is doing. So I would do a bunch of treatments on my knee and then get apitherapy injections at the same time to stimulate the body to rebuild that tissue as well.
Wow.
But, I've never heard anyone really talk about that in terms of like healing tendons and stuff in a joint that's been injured. But dude, I would try that before I would try surgery. It's like, why not?
Dr. Bergman has talked extensively on how these various tendons, ligaments, etc., and joints are supplied with the nutrients they need for not only maintenance but healing. And so that speaks to what you two gentlemen were speaking of just now.
Yeah, and I think that that's a big part of this stuff too, is making sure that like the circulation in your body is good. Your body's circulating, your blood is clean. He mentioned for joints, motion is essential.
Yeah. Absolutely essential.
Yeah. And making sure, it's like when people have vision issues, you can fix the acute condition itself. But if your blood is not clean enough to be able to get into those tiny little capillaries to deliver oxygen to those areas of the eye, then the body's going to, break down and cause oxidative stress. And so, making sure that you have enough circulation and your blood is clean and all of that is really helpful for healing anything as well. So it's like, Just regenerating tissue. Another thing I just feel very strongly about is looking at the science behind, I mentioned this before, but the elk antler, taking it internally and applying it externally with DMSO, I think would be super helpful. Because when I did this to myself, when I tore my knee, it was 2008. And so I had only started studying natural health in 2003. So I was only 5 years in, but I knew to avoid, surgery if possible. And so at that time, I did DMSO topically, and I did a few things topically and internally as well. Right when it happened, I drove home. It was nighttime, and my knee was it was starting to swell up and everything. And so, I think all that stuff is really helpful. And I'm sure there's stuff we're all missing, in terms of healing, but, it's enough to get you started, Linda. And I'm sorry for your pain. I'm with you. Nothing's worse than that. I mean, that's a terrible thing because, if you injure your ankle or your foot or your knee, then all of a sudden, you can't walk, and then you don't exercise, and then, you put on weight, it becomes a systemic chronic problem. So joints are really, really helpful to make sure you stay on top of as you get older.
And on a humorous note, if your budget's low, all you have to do is go try and rob honey from a beehive and you'll get all the therapy you want.
That's right. If you have it in you to do that. Oh man. Should I take methylene blue or DMSO? How much of each? Xiren, I'm not sure what your the goal of taking those. Do you have an acute condition or what are you looking for? I've used both before.
Can you hear me? I didn't know if you could hear me.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, what I'm so confused about the methylene blue and then the DMSO, because, Dr. Bergman was saying something about taking 5 drops a day.
Uh-huh.
And would that actually purify my blood, or I don't know what it's doing, and if it should counteract with the methylene blue. I'm just confused on which I should take and when I should take it.
Well, so DMSO is something that you kind of use like you have in your medicine cabinet kind of a thing. You could do all kinds of interesting things with it. So like DMSO is something that I would use like if I had a cold or something. I might apply some olive leaf extract on my chest and rub it in with DMSO, for example. Or, if I had an acute injury like this meniscus tear, I would use it for that. People have used it for strokes, post-stroke recovery with insane success. There's a doctor, I forgot his name will come to me, but he's written a number of books. Stanley Jacobs, I think, out of Oregon, and he's written extensively on DMSO. DMSO is also something that you could do in an IV, for chronic like cancer patients with really great success. So it's not something that I would do like on a regular basis. The methylene blue, on the other hand, is something that you could do as like a tonic almost, where you can take it on an ongoing basis. And so is that kind of what you're thinking about with DMSO, or did you just want to get on it and just see what happens?
Well, it sounded like it would be such a miracle product taking internally. But the other thing I wanted to find out is, does that mix with, my husband is on Norcos and for his pain.
Okay.
So I was wondering if that would even help him. Would that mix with the Norcos?
What is that a medication or what is that?
Oxycodone.
Oh gosh. Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I haven't researched the
hydrocodone. Yeah, hydrocodone. Not oxycodone.
That's definitely out of my wheelhouse. I don't do a lot of research on pharmaceuticals, but
okay.
Yeah,
I was just thinking maybe that could help his pain, because when he runs out of that.
Yeah. So what kind of pain does he have?
Oh, you name it. On neck, knee, back.
Okay.
So neuropathy. By the way, what would help with neuropathy other than benzopyramine or whatever that is, B6?
Yeah, benthymine. A lot of things. So neuropathy, is he pre-diabetic?
No, not that we know of, no.
Okay. Does he have it in his hands or in his feet?
His legs.
His legs. Okay.
And his feet, definitely his feet.
Okay. Glenn shared Amanda Volmer. Yeah, we had her on our show about DMSO too. She's great. We did a whole show on DMSO with her. But for neuropathy,
he was just saying about his hands too, his fingers.
What I would do to start with is I would get a pulse oximeter meter and measure the oxygen saturation in whatever part of the body that's having an issue with the neuropathy, and just see what kind of readings you get.
Okay.
And so that means that, like, I'm guessing there's a diabetic component to this, because there typically is.
Okay.
But, or at the very least, an oxidative stress component too. For a short answer, I would get some, I would try some, like sometimes you just want to use like a particular substance in super high amounts to see if you get an effect. And then you can figure out, it's sort of like when you go to a doctor and they ask you what color your mucus is, and they want to know if it's a bacterial or viral, right? Mm-hmm. So in this case, I would get some liquid B vitamins from Premier Research Labs. I think it's called Quantum Nutrition Labs.
Okay.
And it's a liquid B vitamin. And I would apply that to his foot with DMSO and see what kind of reaction he gets.
Oh, okay.
And
mix it together, the B vitamins and the DMSO?
Yeah, the B vitamins, like I said, it's a liquid, so you would apply some to the foot or wherever he's having the numbing and tingling.
Okay.
And then right over the top of that, you can get a DMSO gel and see if he gets any relief from that. And that would be a first place I would start.
Okay.
To find out what's going on. Is it a B vitamin deficiency? Is it a dirty blood deficiency? Is it an oxidative stress issue? The body's inability to deliver oxygen? So you want to find out like what's sort of the cause of that. But for immediate relief, I would try that and see if he gets a reaction.
Okay, I'll try that. Now, as far as the methylene blue, could I take that every day? A couple drops?
Yeah, you definitely could.
Okay, it's just.
I take about 14 drops a day, so for.
You didn't turn blue yet. Okay.
That's correct. Yeah, and I'm not rich. I'm in my mid 60s and I'm functioning well.
Okay.
So methylene blue, we did a whole show on that, and I first read the book called, what is it called? The Ultimate Guide to Methylene Blue by Mark Sloan. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this stuff is incredible. How come, no one really knows about it, right? So a friend of mine sells methylene blue, and so I tried some, and I was like, wow, this stuff is really cool. And so I did some more research, and finally I decided to have him on to do a show about it. And I can't recall, it's been almost a year since I read the book, so I don't remember all of it, but what it seems to be doing is lowering oxidative stress, and it stands in for the body as an oxygen replacement almost, and it helps the body create ATP more effectively, because what it seems to be doing is you have electrons on the mitochondrial membrane that have a series of 4 steps that we know about. There's probably more. I've heard people say there might be more, but there's 4 steps to get to cytochrome C oxidase, where we create ATP. That's where we create energy, and we have about anywhere from a few hundred to a few 100,000 mitochondria per cell. And we know we have 30 trillion red blood cells or something like that. So, one beat of your heart requires a billion mitochondria. So you can see how much energy we really need. And so in order for that to make ATP in complex 4, the electrons have to transfer from complex 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. And what methylene blue seems to do is it allows the body, because if there's issues with the mitochondria, like in complex 2 or 3, for example, the electrons can't pass over, and you never get the ability to make energy. And then you start creating, instead of creating water, you're creating oxygen, and it becomes an oxidant inside the body. And so what happens with methylene blue is it helps to skip complex 2 and 3, which is really strange. So it allows your body to effectively and more easily manage oxygen and create more energy. And so it does a bunch of other things as well, that I forget at the moment. As you can
It
imagine,
contributes to positive cognitive effects now that you're forgetting.
Mhm. Yeah. There you go. See, I haven't had my methylene blue today.
Okay, so I could just take that in the morning before or after I take vitamins or before I eat?
Yeah. So Paul, maybe you can share what you do. I'll share what I do. I usually, I drink, a couple, probably 3 mason jars full of water per day. I'm 185 pounds. So I drink 3 of those per day. And in each of the mason jars, I put like 1 drop of methylene blue. And I only do that because it can be expensive if you go through it really quick. So, and then if I'm sick, if I get a cold or flu, like I've had those, a couple times in the last 6 months, I'll just do like what Paul does. I'll do 3 times a day. I'll do a full dropper, which is like 20 to 30 drops of it, in like a 1 ounce thing of water, and I'll just chug it down. And so that'll be part of my overall, way to heal from, flu or whatever this nonsense virus that they tell us is out there.
Discovered in 1922, vitamin E has to be one of the most misunderstood vitamins in the world. Essentially, it acts as a super powerful antioxidant, and it does this by donating electrons, which lowers oxidation, aka rust, from iron overload inside the body. But it's also a super powerful estrogen antagonist, so it's amazing for hormone health as well. A deficiency in vitamin E could result in age spots on your skin, hormone dysregulation, the inability to get pregnant or to carry a pregnancy full term, bedwetting in children, fatty liver disease, arterial blockages, cancers, skin or connective tissue issues. Essentially, vitamin E donates electrons and lowers oxidation all over the body. So it's amazing for any vision issues, nerve damage, calcification, iron overload, and so much more. That's why I like MitoLife PUFA Protect. 1 capsule contains 1,000 milligrams of mixed tocopherols. Use the code EHR15 on biochargeme.com and get some today.
Well, I do take my minerals and all my other vitamins, which is glutathione too.
Okay.
And what else do I take? Oh, NAD too. That seems to be really helping me.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah, and that's a cell regenerator.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I have that other product called the Emergent that I've been involved in. But so it seems like all that is helping. And then when I was taking the methylene blue, I thought, is this making it worse or better? So, but it sounds like it'll probably make it better because it'll get right down to the mitochondria.
Yeah. And it's a standalone for oxygen too. So for anyone dealing with like low oxygen issues, and like I said before, in Mark Sloan's book, he talks about injecting it into people's backs to heal back pain. I don't have any experience or knowledge about that, but I know like I nebulized it. So you can put a few drops in water and then put that water into a nebulizer if you're sick. And, if you have a respiratory infection or something like that, you can breathe the micronized particles of DMSO right into your lungs and get that medicine right there on the lungs where it belongs. So,
all right, that sounds great.
Yeah, for $100 to get a nebulizer, I like the Omron one, OMRON.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have one.
Yeah, it's a portable, with batteries. And so to have a nebulizer and having some methylene blue on hand, like, I don't know why, if I ever, if in 3 weeks I got a flu or something, I would never in a million years consider going to a doctor. Like why would I do that when I have all this medicine at home,
Right. The doctor will only make you worse.
Yeah, I know, right? So,
because once you start on all those antibiotics, it just degenerates.
Oh, it's terrible. I have so many things here that I could use, from ozone to PEMF to, sauna therapy to light therapy and all the stuff and all the supplements and things like that, that most of the time I can't even get through all the things that I want to get through. Like I remember last time I was sick, this was maybe just like, I don't know, like 4 or 5 months ago. I was like, okay, I'm going to do this, and this. And I had a whole plan in my head, and I did like half of the things, and I got better in like a day. And so I didn't even have time to try all the other things that I could have done, So it's nice to have some of these things at your house,
Yeah, that is great. One thing I got to do is get a video on this. So I could choose my camera, but I don't have a camera for this. If I was on my laptop, I could.
So maybe if Paul wants to share where he gets the methylene blue, I get mine from a company called lifeblood.co.
Okay, I do have methylene blue here, and I started using it, but
cool.
I don't know. It was scary looking, and then my urine was scary looking, so I started.
Blue, right?
So I stopped it. Yes.
Yeah.
So I
So
started.
when you take the wee in the loo, it looks so pretty. It looks so blue.
It does.
So there's
yes.
no problem with that. But I was going to mention, though, that something Mark mentioned in his book someplace. He was talking about pain experiments in the mitigation of pain with the use of methylene blue. It goes back to the late 1800s. And he mentioned an article published by Dr. Ehrlich, I think, and Lettman, journal, some sort of German journal of medicine, regarding that. It's effective at pain relief as well. So it might be worthwhile looking up online to see if you can find those references, or look in Mark's book. I can't remember, about halfway through the book, maybe.
Well, I wonder if it'd be good to take, instead of what my husband's taking. I don't take that, the Norcos or the hydrochloroquine or whatever that is.
Yeah.
Hydrocodone. Anyway, maybe I wonder if he could take that along with this and start, getting rid of his pain.
I wouldn't think it would be an issue. I wouldn't talk. I don't know. I mean, in this case, a doctor is not going to even know what methylene blue is.
Actually, I asked the doctor, and I said, "Do you know what it is?" And he goes, "Yes." And that was the biggest conversation we had about it. So I wanted to get into it, but we had other issues to talk about. And that was a couple months ago when I first got this, because I was, like I said, it just sounded scary to take. Yeah. And I was just going by what you were saying about it. So I ordered it, and I got...
Oh, you cut out a little bit. Yeah. So in this case, I would definitely do your own research when it comes to this kind of stuff, because when natural substances interact with pharmaceuticals, that's an area that I don't know anything about in terms of my research. Like I said, I don't research that pharmaceuticals, but I would feel safe doing it. Just speaking for myself personally and not as medical advice, I would probably do that, because I don't see any issues with that. It's funny because I always recommend, like, when people are on like medications and drugs like Lipitor or something like that, which is the first $10 billion pharmaceutical that they ever created, the most successful pharmaceutical in the history of the world, Lipitor, $10 billion. But I always recommend people like work with their doctor and work with like a naturopath to create like a 6-month program to lower, and replace it with something else. And it's so funny because I'm so cautious about that kind of stuff when it comes to pharmaceuticals. And then Dr. Bergman's like, no, just get off it, just get off right away, But I would never, I love Dr. Bergman, but I would never do that, just because whenever you have the pharmaceutical and the medical industrial complex involved, it involves like the legal process, insurance, and it's just a tricky world. So whenever like pharmaceuticals are involved, I always just recommend getting off slowly and methodically, and supporting the body along the way. Or you could take Dr. Bergman's shotgun approach and just do it,
Okay.
right away. So
now, how could I say this food grade? I'm looking at it, just a strong antioxidant, improves brain function.
Is this the methylene blue?
Yes, I was just reading the bottle.
Is this what brand?
It's from Compass Laboratory.
Oh, I never heard of that one. Okay. It's my understanding from Mark's book, and Paul may be weigh in on this because it's been a while since I read his book, but there's 3 different grades. There's pharmaceutical grade, commercial grade, and industrial grade, I think.
Yes. It does say take a full dropper daily or something on here.
Yeah, so you may want to just do some research on that. The 2 brands I recommend are Lifeblood and Transcriptions.
Okay.
Those are two ones that I feel comfortable with. I know both guys behind those companies, so I trust.
Lifeblood, you said?
Yeah, it's Lifeblood, and blood is BLUD. And instead of com, it's co, so it's lifeblood.co.
Okay.
And I like that one just because it's a liquid form. You can nebulize it, you can put it topically. The Transcriptions one just kind of sits in my fridge. They're little tablets, and I don't really take them that much, but they're a good brand too, though.
Would you put that in the chat?
Sure. I'll put both those links in there.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Lifeblood, yeah. They're often out at Lifeblood, so they kind of get big batches and then they sell out of them. So I don't know if they're on there now. Paul, what kind do you take of methylene blue?
I don't recall off the top of my head. Let me go fetch the bottle, and I got it from a company. Hang on a second.
There's a couple of them. Okay, cool. Yeah, I put prescriptions and lifeblood in there if you guys are
By the way, mine says 1%. So
okay.
It does say take a dropper.
So what I would recommend to all of us, and I know you guys are, sort of do this already, but if you feel so inclined, for me, like natural health is sort of my career. So, I like to read and research and read books like this, if it weren't my career, I would probably just read other books and be interested in other things. But I think just whether it's your career or not, I think it's just really important to avail yourself of healing options that are out there. Like I was reading some papers by Morton Walker that Paul put in there. He was the guy I was referencing before when I said Stanley Jacobs, but I think it's Morton Walker's book on DMSO. But he was talking about the use of hyperbaric oxygen chambers within 1 to 3 hours of having a stroke, having like a 98.9% reversal of all nerve damage and all the damage caused by catastrophic strokes, like serious strokes. So these are strokes so bad that people will die from them. And he referenced in his book how if you're able to get into a hyperbaric oxygen chamber within 1 to 3 hours of that stroke, boom, 98% chance of a reversal, 100% reversal of the stroke damage. And so like, it's just really important to know about things like, prolozone for your joints, right? Instead of getting surgery, or hyperbaric, or, coffee enemas to support your liver if you're sick, or sauna therapy and ways to detox. And so it's just really important to know about these things, because when you have a guy on TV like Dr. Fauci telling you that the only way to overcome a virus is from an injection from God knows what, in my mind, I can think of a million things that disable viruses, that prevent them from entering cells, that prevent the hijacking of cells. Ultraviolet blood irradiation therapy. Super important to know about that. Like super important, because you may never have to use it. But if you know there's a person within 5 miles of your home and you or a child or your spouse gets sick, you can do a UBI treatment, complete reversal. IV vitamin C, ascorbic acid. Dr. Frederick Klenner in the 1940s was reversing polio. He was bringing kids that were so far gone they were in a coma and bringing them back to life with IV vitamin C therapy in the 1940s. So the medical industrial complex has known about this for that long. Yet, that's right around the time that the medical process of pharmaceuticals and antibiotics and drugs started to become more mainstream, and then they just kicked his research to the side. But when you know that these things exist, it's like, oh, wow, I have so many things that I can do to heal an acute injury or a chronic condition, that you don't feel like you can be manipulated. Like you don't feel like, oh, I'm scared of this virus, that's going around right now, because you know about all the other things that work and work better than what they have. So it's a really empowering to know this stuff, even if you never have to use it, and most likely what will happen is that you'll have someone in your own life, like a mom or dad or, cousin or something like that, that needs the information that you have. So I just really recommend doing a little bit of research, just knowing that things exist. That way, because when my mom was diagnosed with cancer in 1995, which is what got me started in all this, she had no idea. Like we had no idea. She was spraying her garden with Roundup. 1995, no one knew about this stuff, right? And so she went down to Mexico and she looked at the Gerson therapy. She went to a macrobiotic place in San Diego. At that time, it's like 0 to 100 in 2 days, right? Your mind is like, oh my gosh, like what the world is all this stuff that I have to do now if I'm not going to do chemo, right? Well, if you avail yourself of this information before anything happens, then it's not so much of an information overload. Because that's the one thing that you hear from cancer patients, right? It's like, oh, I'm just so overwhelmed. There's just so much, like, I don't know. I've never heard about, hyperbaric oxygen before in my life. And now all of a sudden I'm being told I need to do it. Well, if you know about it before, you know, it's not information overload, right? So, and that's another thing doctors try to get you to do is like, oh, we have this, you know, these tumors, we think they're in your body and it's Thursday, but we got to start chemo on Monday, right? How many times have you heard that? So that's how they try to get you in their system, you know? So anyway, sorry for the long rant, but it's so important to know what your healing options are. And so hopefully
I just placed a couple notes in there, Justin, my source, as well as the study regarding neuropathy. Nice. And it's at the NIH site. I've got the reference there in the chat.
Oh, cool. Thank you, Paul.
That comes from Mark's book.
Oh, okay. Cool. Evaluation of protein biomarkers in the analgesic response. Okay, cool. I'll read this. I love reading research. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Barb.
I was hearing about neuropathy and all that, and recently I was looking some stuff up, and I found that either Tamarack tea or soaking in Tamarack, kind of like a tea for your legs, would reverse the effects of neuropathy and even muscular dystrophy and all that type of stuff, because my boyfriend got Guillain-Barré syndrome, right? But I can't find how you're supposed to prepare it except for they use tamarack bark. I don't know if it's the inner bark, the outer bark, so and so on. I wondered if you had any information about that stuff.
No, I haven't heard about those. Those are like herbal teas that you can make?
Yeah, you
she's speaking of the spice turmeric.
Okay.
No, not turmeric, tamarack. It's a type of tree.
I'm my ignorance, Paul. I apologize.
It's a type of tree that grows. See, I'm from Canada, right?
Okay.
And in Canada, we have a different variety of trees than the States would have, and one of our trees is called Tamarack.
Okay.
It loses its pin, like it's like a spruce or something like that. But the only difference is that it loses its needles in the fall and doesn't have them back until the spring. Okay. And it does just like leaves, it change colors and everything. And I was recently finding out that if you, because I've been trying to research natural medicine as much as possible, because where everything's going, I think natural medicine with what we have local is the way to go. Mm-hmm. So as a result, I stumbled on this, and it was saying that it's amazing. People that soak 3 hours a day for 3 days in a row that have neuropathy and all kinds of other stuff that cannot walk, after only an hour, they were able to walk. After 3 days, they had everything completely reversed.
Interesting. Okay.
So I'm looking into getting more information. Now, my boyfriend's been living with this problem for 4 years, but if I can get information on it, it would be great because it would reverse it. So the information I got is that it is bark. It is the bark from the tree, from the small trees that are picked up. Okay. You just take it off and make it like simmer it overnight. And the next day you can soak in it, and it has to be like a not cold but warm water, and you soak in it for 3 hours. The first hour you should start to see difference. And then you could also make the tamarack. If you cook the bark, simmer the bark into a coconut oil mix, like you just cook it on there, and like not too high because coconut oil doesn't do well at a high temperature. You just cook it until it comes pink. You can use it as a lotion or a salve or something and put it in affected areas.
Okay. That's great. That's awesome.
So, so I was hearing about that, and I was like, that's a natural medicine, and maybe you guys would be, somebody would know something about it.
Yeah. So, well, that's the first time I've heard of that one. if there's any information on that, can you pop it in the chat room? I'd like to take a look at that. If you can. No worries if you can't, but
I found it on YouTube. I can see. I don't know where the chat.
so how is
I'm not too sure where.
Dealing with Guillain Barré, or your boyfriend? You said.
My boyfriend, yeah, he got Guillain-Barré syndrome in 2018 when our baby was 9 months old.
Okay.
And we flooded. We ended up with 4 feet of water. I was in school full time. It was just a mess. Yeah. And then he did the footing of the house and everything else to raise it, despite the doctors saying he would never be able to do any of that stuff again. And I've been looking for natural remedies to help him with that ever since. And I found that acupuncture, stuff like that, was amazing. Vitamin C, vitamin D, all kinds of stuff like that. Anything that boosts the immune system, basically. But I found that
if I were you, Barb, I would because there can be a connection between that and either a bacterial or viral sort of overload, and I've also heard there's connection to parasite and fungal infections with Guillain-Barré syndrome as well. So if I were you and your husband or your boyfriend, I would look into ozone therapy and ultraviolet and get some sessions going on that, because those are notoriously antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal.
Do you know how that would react with stage 4 cancer?
Oh, obviously not medical advice and only what I would do. But if that were me, I would definitely do it, because those things are going to be incredibly beneficial for your body's healing. Because
he got diagnosed a year ago with stage 4 cancer on top of everything.
Okay. What kind of cancer did they tell you?
It was lung cancer, but it also spread to the lymph nodes and the stomach.
Okay. Yeah. So for that, I would see the great thing about these treatments is that they're systemic. So in the allopathic world, you have one item for one condition and another item for another condition. But in our world, everything works together. So again, not medical advice, but ultraviolet and ozone therapy would be high on my list if I had any of the conditions that your husband or your
I'll talk to him about it for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
That sounds great.
Yeah, ozone therapy, and you just type in ultraviolet blood irradiation or UBI. But UBI, might be universal basic income or some other weird thing. But just type in ultraviolet blood irradiation and your zip code maybe. Or you could go to acam.org and find a practitioner in your area. That's a worldwide database. So, and ozone as well would be very high on my list. But, there's also other things that can be done through IV treatments like DMSO that would be helpful too. So, work with a practitioner and start maybe implementing some of those things because they could be extremely helpful for him.
Okay, certainly. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I placed a couple notes in the chat for you on the Tamarack tree. I researched it briefly, and there's a place on the website Song of the Woods where they describe using the inner bark and boiling it for therapeutic remedies.
Oh, nice. Great find, Paul. Good stuff.
I know that the inner bark is good for like coughs and stuff like that, but I didn't know if it was also for neuropathy or not.
Well, the write-up will describe probably more than that. And I appreciate that. This is the consequence of having no life.
No. But you know what, though, too, for neuropathy, I always recommend B vitamins, internal and external, like I mentioned before. The external B vitamins could be applied in liquid form with DMSO just to see what kind of response you get. There's always going to be an issue with a B vitamin depletion anytime there's nerve issues. And B vitamins are required to make energy. So, that's something that's huge because a body that's full of energy doesn't get sick. unfortunately, we live in such a way as to deplete the body's ability to make energy. So sometimes just removing those things could be enough to where your body gets back to its default state, which is energy production. And when there's enough energy, there's literally no ability for chronic disease to set in. So it all comes down to mitochondrial health and focusing on the engine of the cell instead of the gasoline, which is the food that we eat. So focusing on mitochondrial health, and that's going to be what Dr. Cruz talks about. Light, water, and magnetism are the primary, have the most impact on mitochondrial function. I mean, food does too, but to a much lesser degree than light, water, and magnetism. So, yeah. Linda says, so glad you research and share all this healing options. Thanks, Linda. Yeah. I like researching because there's a lot of people in my life that are sick. So I like trying to figure out solutions for them, you know, and then it gives me a good opportunity to share. If you guys just came in late at the beginning, I talked about these, what are they called? True Dark junk dots. And you can get them for $8. And what I like them for is to block the blue light in your home from like alarm clocks or whatever. Other devices that you have that emit a blue or green frequency of light. Because I was reading some research a while back that 1 photon of blue light can suppress melatonin secretion by up to 4 hours, which is crazy. So that's why specifically when you're using a cell phone at night, it's difficult to go to sleep because you're looking into a 6,500 Kelvin screen that's sending all kinds of mixed signals to your mitochondria. Telling you it's daytime and when it's not. So we want to mimic the outdoor environment as much as we can. So those blue light junk dots are really great to take and then, or to have around. I told you earlier that I put them on in our refrigerator. So you open our refrigerator, it's all orange light. So you go, get some food out of the fridge at 11 o'clock at night. You don't want to be sending signals to your body that it's midday sun in the middle of Africa, right? In the summertime, you want to tell your body it's nighttime. And so the way we secrete melatonin, which by the way is the number one anti-cancer hormone our body makes endogenously, but it's also known as the sleep hormone. But the way we release that, we create it in the morning sun, but we release it in the absence of light. And so when you're bombarding your body with so much light at night, there's no wonder why there's sleep issues. And then I shared these Buteco breathing strips. I just got another pack, which are these ones. And for like $15, this will last you 6 months or more.
That's a pretty upside down label.
Is it? Let's see. My computer is...
No worries.
On my machine, it looks like it's backwards, but I'll put a link in the chat room to that. These are $15, last you 6 months, and you essentially can mouth tape while you're sleeping, which has a ton of systemic effects. But the biggest one, two biggest ones that I like are it regulates the pH of your blood and allows the saliva that should be in your mouth to coat your teeth all night long, which provides the immune factors so that plaque and tartar don't grow. Because when you deprive your body of or your teeth of saliva, you're creating an environment where bacteria can grow in your teeth. So it's a really great thing to prevent cavities with that. So that's like, what is that, $15? And the junk dots are $8? Super cheap. So I'll put those in the chat room again, along with the ozone generator. All right, so anybody else have anything they want to talk about?
Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying the show so far. I wanted to tell you about sauna therapy. And I don't know if you guys do sauna therapy on a regular basis. I do. I've been doing so for 10 years. And the sauna that I love the most and have been using all this time is the Relax Far Infrared Sauna. And what I love about the sauna is that, A, it's cost effective. It doesn't cost $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 like most other saunas. It's portable, which means if you have a tight space, you can store it underneath your bed. After each use, you can put it in the closet, or you can even loan it to a friend. It's very low EMF. It uses uses far infrared light though, which helps to increase circulation, increase cardiovascular output, increase heat shock proteins, which has a direct effect on immune cell function. It also helps improving lymphatic drainage and most importantly, sweating out toxins that you're exposed to on a daily basis. This is by far my favorite health piece of equipment I have in my home. I'll put a link to it on today's show page or on our store, biochargeme.com.
Or discuss?
I just wanted to make mention, Justin, I took a hair tissue mineral analysis test with a friend of mine maybe a month ago, and my iron levels were literally off the top of the chart, as well as my manganese and my aluminum was very high. So I have history in construction. I'm assuming that's why my aluminum is high and potentially my manganese, but so I have to start looking into some donations of blood and all of that. And I'm also working directly with Dr. Hines, and I just love working with him. He's so cool, man. He's just a character. But
isn't he super? He's just, it's like you wind him up and he'll go for 5 hours. I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, we've had a couple long calls, but he was explaining to me all the intricacies of Lyme, and I knew a little bit, but he's obviously an expert on that. So I'm waiting on the results of a specific Lyme test from this company called, I think it's called Genetics something or another.
Okay.
So hopefully some answers in the future as to what's going on with me.
Is that the hemoglobin or ferritin, if you don't mind my inquiry?
As far as the hair tissue mineral analysis?
The iron level. Was it hemoglobin or ferritin?
I don't know. I think it was, no, I would be
It was a hair test though, right? You said?
Yes.
Okay. So I don't think you'd be able to get that data from the hair.
Okay. I think that's maybe why Dr. Hines wants me to run a blood panel to determine if it's ferritin or hemoglobin.
Nice. For those that don't know, Dr. Hines has been on our radio show a couple times, probably 3 or 4 times by now. He's so cool, and he's a great doctor that has a clinic in San Angelo, Texas. But that's where his sort of like office is. But then his clinic is right over the border in Mexico. And so I recommend him. He's a good guy, doing great work, helping lots of people. And his website's hopewellness.com. Good guy. It's funny, all these people though, it's so funny, Chris, like, when I interview them or I talk to them, I'll talk to them for a few minutes before we start recording. And then after we are done recording, sometimes like they'll just, we'll talk for like 2 hours. Like I remember Dr. Robert Kassar, dude, it must've been 3 hours after the show. Like he just went on and on and on and on. It was awesome, but my goodness, it's like these guys are passionate. It's awesome.
They're passionate, and it's evident as how I don't want to say frustrated, but I'm going to use frustrated. He is with the patients he's getting, not necessarily them, but just their doctors, and he's like, I can't even believe that this is what's going on. He's like, this is just. And I listened to one of his interviews with you, him talking about the iron in cancer patients and how they were supplementing them with iron. And and so I just, I really resonate with that guy. I was like, Steve, can I just come down and shadow you, man? And you can just teach me this stuff? Because I would love to do what you do. He's like, come on down to Mexico and we'll have a cerveza.
Yeah, he's awesome. I like guys like him because he just sort of like has his head in the sand. He's just researching. He's talking to a lot of medical doctors and naturopathic doctors that are his friends and colleagues. And, you look at his website and it looks like super outdated. He doesn't know how to market, but he doesn't have any time for that because he spends all his days researching and doing all this stuff. And like, to me, those are the hidden gems. You get all like a lot of the people who are really, really good at marketing online and stuff like that. And if they have a team doing that for them, that's great, because I would hope that the people that are like naturopathic doctors that are really, really popular online also spend time doing research, because you can't really do both unless you have a team working for you. And so I like the hidden gem kind of guys, like they're.
It's funny you say that because I had a couple of people that I was seeking help from, and they all know their ins and outs as well, but I would go to, talk to them about their program and it was $8,000, or I'm like, dude, can I just pay you per session? Like that, I don't have that. And I talked with Dr. Hines. Our first session was $290. We talked for 2.5 hours. He went over all of my questionnaire and then recommended a very specific Lyme panel, which was an expensive test. It was $650. I mean, it's relative. I'm trying to get to the root of the problem, so it is what it is. But at the end of this, I'll probably be in 5-6 sessions with him. The follow-up sessions are $90. I mean, I might be in for, I don't know, $2,500 to figure out what's really going on. And I've talked and learned so much from this guy, opposed to running this Kajabi program that is like a drip model that everybody's getting this like blanket treatment from.
Right,
and
right.
So yeah, you're exactly right. And he is a gem, and I appreciate that guy and appreciate you for hosting him so I could find him. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no worries. I'm going to put a link to this. I don't know. You probably know about this. He's a friend of ours. He used to live in the area we live in now in California, but he's recently moved to Colorado. And we've had a number of people on our show talk about Lyme disease. And I think I mentioned this before, but in case I haven't, a lot of the people we've had on, to me, just seemed like when they were talking about Lyme, they were talking about it as if they had a headache or something, or they had a cold. And they're like, yeah, I just, I did these 4 things and it, completely reversed it. And I wrote a book about it, and it just seems so basic to me when I knew it was a really chronic issue. And then I stumbled across a guy by the name of Xiren Kenny, Xiren. And we had him on a radio show twice now. And I would really recommend, if you haven't already heard this show, Chris, if you have, that's cool. But I've never known anyone with Lyme as bad as this guy. And he's about, our age. I don't know. He's in his probably mid 40s. And he's a musician. And, that's his passion. But he has this whole journey with Lyme that is unlike anything I've ever, talk about a complete transformation of a guy who put together and built his own protocol based on hours and hours and hours of research into parasites, into EMF. Oh my gosh, it's like talk about a healing journey. So I put a link in the chat room. This guy will inspire you.
But I definitely will. And this is it's definitely progressive what I'm dealing with. And after talking with Hines and telling him he was talking about percentages per bite, and I guess there's only one true type of, I don't know, really, really long conversation that I didn't fully understand yet. But yeah, I will definitely be listening to that. It'll help me understand my approach moving forward and all that. But he's got me on 2 herbs right now to kind of do some functional testing to determine if it is in fact this particular kind of Lyme. And one's called Cemento and the other one's called Cumanda. I'm mispronouncing those, but so I'll be taking one drop every day, and then adding a drop a day until I get, he said, terrible feeling results. And
look forward to that.
Yeah. So he had some select things that he said about it, but anyway, I haven't gotten those yet, so I'm curious to see how this shakes out.
Yeah, he's a little bit more open to pharmaceuticals and drugs and using them in conjunction with natural medicines and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But he and I think that, there's a place for this stuff. If anything, in the last couple of years, this whole business of ivermectin has opened the natural people's eyes a little bit to the benefits of pharmaceuticals, speaking of cancer, there is a paper that I read, oh gosh, I wish I could, if I find it, I can pop in the chat room, but basically, this doctor is curing all kinds of patients of advanced cancers using fenbendazole, and you can buy it on Amazon. It's a dewormer for dogs. And
isn't that telling, being a dewormer?
Right. And you see, it's called on Amazon. It's called, it's under the name Panacure, Panacure. And it's a form of fenbendazole. And I read a a document from a doctor who was utilizing this with his cancer patients with, I think it was like 100% success rate. But it's incredible, right? I mean, a dewormer, right? That kind of gets into line with, so that's a pharmaceutical. I mean, that's like a drug, right? But, same as with ivermectin. And so I think it's, like I mentioned before, like when you're trying to heal, everything should be on the table,
Yep. There's tools in the toolbox.
Yeah. Let me try to see if I can dig up that paper, because it is like, what in the world? You can buy it on Amazon for like $10. And, this doctor's talking about it being a cancer cure.
Well, that was originally what I thought. I had some kind of parasitic infection, and I still very well may. And Hines talks about the potential of these spirochetes and everything like that. And one of the things that, just actually pushed me over the edge to hire someone to help me figure this out is my eye floaters over the past like 16 months have been, I never had them. And then they're just abundant and like just going across my field of vision all the time. I'm like, this is just a sign. It is getting worse and worse. So anyhow, I talked to him fully anticipating this being some kind of parasitic thing. And he was leaning more towards Lyme and mold just due to the amount of exposure I've had to tick bites.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, all these things play such a big role in depleting the body's ability to make energy so that you can heal, and so... Yeah, so I'm
there may be applicability for the CDS, the chlorine dioxide solution in the therapies. Yeah. Just a thought.
That's another therapy. Thanks, Paul, for bringing that up.
Thanks, Paul.
Certainly.
See, PDF. I'm trying to find that document about Panicure or the dewormer for dogs. Oh, yeah. Okay. It's called A Cure for Cancer Hidden in Plain Sight. Jeez. Okay, I'm going to put a link in the chat room to this. But you figure if this works for cancer, it's going to work for many things, right? So it might be something to consider, like a once-a-year protocol. Let's see. This is a document from Dr. David Williams for those listening on audio, and it's called A Cure for Cancer Hidden in Plain Sight. Wow, incredible. I mean, could you imagine if you claimed like this kind of stuff, you just cannot talk about it. Like, no, you're going to get chemo. We're going to put you through our treatments. So, yeah, there's a PDF document there. I put the link in the chat room. You guys can check that out and download it to your computer. But like I said before, this kind of information, really critical to know about, right? Like what Paul just said too, MMS or CDS, these are all treatments that are demonized and people don't want to know about, or they try to talk about in a disparaging way. But like having these things at your disposal is really important. Really important. Could be life or death. Okay, Glenn said Dr. Robert Kassar has some recent eye-opening clips on YouTube regarding parasites. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people think that eye floaters are parasites. Some people think they're calcification. Some people think it's lipofuscin. Could be a lot of different things.
It may be, in fact, a lot of different things for different persons, in different situations. I would try to avoid thinking monolithically and saying it's always this one thing. Just a recommendation there.
Yeah. Dr. Jennifer Daniels recommends an eye wash that I'll share with you. I'll pull that up in my...
That's actually one thing I was going to make mention. I remember you had, there was a really funny dude you had on. The only thing I specifically remember about him, other than his recommendation for eye wash, was that he hated David Avocado Wolf. I don't know. Okay. I don't know why. Maybe his name was Pete something or another. But I found the only reason I say that is because he mentioned eye wash too, and I was trying to remember the episode, but I couldn't find it.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
He was a character.
Oh my gosh, I want to know who that is. Okay, so this comes from Dr. Jennifer Daniels from some notes I took from her information. Okay, so she says to cut, this is apparently an eye wash for floaters, for glaucoma, macular degeneration, myopia, all kinds of things. So she says here, cut 15 slices of ginger. You don't have to peel it. Small slices of ginger, 15 of them, and boil it in 1.5 cups of filtered water, preferably reverse osmosis or distilled. So 15 slices of ginger in 1.5 cups of water. And then you let it simmer for 10 to 15 minutes and strain it. And then she said, take 1 tablespoon of that mixture and add it to 1 cup of filtered water. And then you would use an eye cup, not a dropper. And you try to hold the solution in your eye for 60 seconds with your eye open. And she said to do it once per day for 30 days. So apparently there's some compounds. I'm guessing it's the some of the acids and some of the sulfur-based compounds in ginger that are helping restore circulation to the eye is what's going on there. But apparently she has really great success with that.
I just wrote it down. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll repeat it again just in case people want to, sometimes when I listen to stuff and they say stuff like this, I'll be like, oh man, I want to hear it again. So it's 15 slices of ginger. You don't have to peel it. And you put it in 1.5 cups of filtered water. So you get 1.5 cups of water, 15 slices of ginger. And then you boil it. And then you let it simmer for 10 to 15 minutes. And then it should be a light brown color. If it's not, she said to boil it some more. And then once you do that, you strain it and you take 1 tablespoon of that liquid and you add it to 1 cup of filtered water. And that becomes your like eye wash solution. And she said, don't use a dropper, get an eye cup, which you can get on Amazon, and hold that solution in your eye for 60 seconds with your eye open once a day for 30 days. So.
And in a pinch, a shot glass will work.
Oh, does it? I've never done that.
Yeah, it's just about the right size of the orbit.
Oh. The shot glasses I have are like way wider than my eye would be, but maybe.
Interesting.
Maybe I have some big shot glasses.
Oh, yes, the better to be above things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So W.C. Fields used to tell the lady while she was pouring, he said, only fill it to 2 fingers, my dear. And his fingers would be against the glass and he would be opening them like a pair of scissors as she poured.
You got to have those strong shots. That's funny. All right, guys. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up. Been going for a couple hours. If there's any links you want me to reshare again, if you popped in late, let me know. I did share that PDF on cancer and what do you call that? Fenbendazole. You can check that out. If there's anything you want to discuss, let me know before we go.
Justin, I want to add real quick. I don't know if you remember me saying that I was going to go to that EES place, the energy enhancement place.
I do remember. Yes. Last week you said, right?
Yeah, we went last Saturday. It was interesting.
Yeah.
I can't say that I felt anything because I don't really have very many issues, but my sister is going back tomorrow or this Saturday.
Oh, okay.
She hardly can sleep during the day and it put her out, but
Really?
It affected me just the opposite. My hands were getting so tingly and then they started jumping around a little bit. It almost made me more energized, but it put her out.
Interesting.
And she never sleeps during the day.
Wow. So here's another form of medicine that people don't talk about, like Rife frequencies, frequency medicine, energy medicine. These should also be on the table for any chronic disease. What's it called again? EEsystems.com or something?
Energy enhancement systems, and they call it EES. And there's only about 45 in the world, but the gal told me that they're getting more and more. She said she thinks it's more now, but she told us there was 2 gals that ran it. Very simple house. They're having a building renovated into their healing room. Right now, she's just having it in one of her rooms in her house. And she has 8 systems, but she's going up to 24. She said that they have a lot of miracles walking out of there. She goes, I could go on and on and on, but she wasn't able to talk to us a lot because she wanted it really quiet. The way she has it set up,
right?
She couldn't really talk to us a lot, but she did say they have a lot of miracles happening.
Interesting. Wow, that's awesome. So,
yeah,
I put the link in the chat room for the one. It's eesystem.com. I think that's a place that you went to, right?
I went to the one in Swanton, Ohio.
Okay.
Which is only about an hour from me. So I know they're all over, I mean, we were very lucky to have one that close because I hear that people are flying in from all over the world to experience it.
Now, have you guys had, and because this kind of thing reminds me of the med bed, and I know that other folks are putting together similar systems to the med bed, but they're not called the med bed. I haven't had any time to research what that is or the benefits of the med bed, but I hear they're pretty profound, just like this place.
Yeah.
So if you guys are interested, check out eesystem.com or look into med beds. Could be, part of your healing journey as well. Thanks for sharing that. Beck, are you going to go back, you said?
I don't know how quickly I'll go back because, I have so many toys here at home that help me out. I just don't know how much I would go back. And she's dealing with so many things that I hope it helps her out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's cool. She's open-minded enough to do something, crazy as energy medicine.
She's at the point where she's about ready to do anything because she's so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because she's got this rash all over and nobody can figure it out. And she's itching all the time.
Really?
Yeah. And she said Monday night she didn't sleep at all. After we went to the EES system thing, but I think sometimes you get worse before you get better. Almost like that Herx, whatever that thing is. Yeah, Herxheimer.
Does she have eczema or anything? Or because that's
no. She was told she has lupus, but I don't know. She gets dizzy spells, bad headaches, and now she has this rash for she's been feeling bad for almost 2 years with the headaches and the dizziness.
Wow.
And now she's had the rash for 6 weeks. And then I was telling you about it, so you gave me a bunch of stuff. I told her everything about iodine, coffee enemas. She went and got everything. She's ready to do anything.
Oh, good. Wow. Interesting. Wow. So if she's willing to do anything, make sure that she's also blocking her smart meter and turning off her Wi-Fi at night and, all that stuff too.
I didn't go that far yet. I got her doing a bunch of stuff. She's got the chlorine dioxide. I just got done asking her, are you still doing that? And she said, not since COVID was around. I said, get back on it.
Yeah.
And
because sometimes these situations are, acute situations, but they're exacerbated by our lifestyle. And I remember Daniel Vitalis talked about this a lot. And, he said, essentially, if you strip away the wood in our walls and the support beams and all the things that are in our walls and just leave the wires there, we're living in electrified cages. And so if you think about that cage just being like, but you can't sense it, right? On my Instagram, I posted a video of a fluorescent light that was doing just that and posted a link to a study about how that kind of light induces cancers. And so when we're being bombarded and living in electrified cages like that, and inside the cage, it's like a Faraday cage, but the opposite kind, right? And so inside the cage, we have our Wi-Fi routers, right? So we're just living, our body's just being, bombarded all day, all night with these frequencies, and that's causing a ton of oxidative stress. So sometimes when people have chronic issues, it just gets to the point where the teeter-totter just starts going like that, and just the balance gets, tilted to one side. And sometimes you just got to remove. People get a lot more success from just removing things that are causing the problem versus doing things. But I always recommend doing both, playing offense and defense. But so if she could eventually get to that point where she's turning off her Wi-Fi at night or hardwiring her internet or blocking her smart meter, that would be super helpful as well.
Yeah, I'll tell her about that. I actually kind of forgot about it. I felt like I was bombarding her with a whole bunch of stuff.
I know. And that's what's hard. Like that's what's hard about this kind of stuff is that it, we gotta, let's see, something happened.
Yeah, to mine too. Huh. Up there.
So sometimes, if we learn about this stuff, beforehand, we don't get bombarded because we know about it all, and it's not information overload that causes us to like panic and pause. So.
Well, she is. I showed her my AquaCure machine. Well, I've had that for like 2 years, and I just never had showed it to her before because I also had the soda pulsar and different things I was showing her. It was like, and I also have one of those. Oh dang it! Polarized light machine. I'm bringing all this stuff out, and I didn't want to get too much. But she's real good about taking advice on things.
It's funny because whenever you get someone in your life that is like has been closed-minded, or just maybe they're not closed-minded, but they're just not interested in this kind of information, and then something happens in their life where they are.
Yeah,
it's so funny because and then they start showing a little bit of interest in what you have to say. It's like I have to make sure I don't flood them with too much stuff. I'm constantly telling myself, okay, just reveal a little bit that they can understand it, so they don't get like information overload because you're so excited they're finally coming to your side, and they're.
Well, the first time I started mentioning the chemtrails, I got made fun of big time, and finally, my husband started coming around. The one day I was in the house and he was outside, and he yelled at me to come outside, and the sky was just polluted with them. He goes, look up. And that's when he started believing me a little bit. Yeah. And then last night, when the sun was going down, the sky was real pink, and you could really see those chemtrails in that pink sky.
Uh-huh.
And I go, look at that sky.
Oh, man.
It just was crazy. It was like we were surrounded by them.
Oh, I know. And they do it a lot at night, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So I don't know if you guys know, but so I'm going to put a link right now to our chat, or our playlist. I'm starting to put everything on Brighteon because I'm getting more and more tired of YouTube. And so if you guys want to subscribe over there, I have a bunch of playlists that aren't even our shows. They're just kind of interesting documentaries I've watched while sitting in the sauna and stuff. But you can check those out and subscribe if you want to our channel over there on Brighteon. But in the playlist called Weather Manipulation, I have those documentaries that you're talking about where they talk about the chemtrails and all that. So, oh, well.
Well, geoengineeringwatch.org actually took samples of them and determined them to be toxic chemicals. I put the link to their site on the chat room there.
Yeah, good one. Good one. They're a great outfit. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I think I'm going to wrap it up. I hope you guys are doing well. I'll see you guys next Friday. And then Dr. Bergman will be live on Sunday, the third Sunday this month, which is the 20th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. But in the meantime, I'll see you guys next Friday. And I hope you guys
be sure and save the chat. And I wish you all a happy Veterans Day to all to whom it applies.
Yes.
Yep. Same with you.
Thank you. And thank you for your ministry, Justin.
Oh, you're so welcome. And I hope to see you guys all next week.
Okay, later.
All right.
Later.
God bless.
All right, there you guys go. Thanks for listening to episode 754. I will put links to everything that we talked about, hopefully some of them, at least some of them at extremehealthradio.com/754. I really appreciate you guys listening. And thank you again for visiting our sponsors for today's show. That is the MitoLife's vitamin E product called PUFA Protect, along with the Relax Far Infrared Sauna and Surthrival's Colostrum. I think you guys will really love those products. So make sure to check those out. And I'll put links to them at extremehealthradio.com/754. And if you're not following us on Instagram yet, please do. We do stories every day. It could be anything from our workouts, videos of our dogs, of our garden, of our fruit trees, of our chickens, of our kids. And then I share a lot of research articles that I'm reading, funny memes, all kinds of cool stuff.
in our Instagram stories. So make sure to follow us on Instagram. There should be links to that on today's show page, or you can just search us out, Extreme Health Radio 2, because we got deleted on our first Instagram account for speaking too much truth. So we're trying to build that back up again. And that's a great way to access me as well, because I'm on there pretty much every day. So make sure to follow us on Instagram, Extreme Health Radio 2. And if in the future, if we're not there, we may be Extreme Health Radio 3. Who knows? So make sure to follow us on there. I appreciate that. And if you want to go even deeper and further, make sure to join us on Patreon. So what we're doing on Patreon is we have a lot of questions that come in about specific health questions and challenges. And rather than answering each question all the time, I'm just doing a full data dump into these guides, I'm calling them. They're PDF documents, and they include links to specific products that I would use for certain conditions. And they don't cure those conditions, I have to say that, but what I would do. So these are just what I would do. And I also include the duration to take them, the amounts to take them in, and how to do it, along with research articles and published papers, scientific journals, links, and all that kind of stuff, so that you can print that out and show it to your doctor about these certain conditions. So I've covered like vision, skin cancer, overall skin health in general, lipomas, cholesterol, high blood pressure, eczema, diabetes, bone health. We'll be tackling cancer. We'll be tackling diabetes, or diabetes we already did. We'll be tackling cardiovascular and heart conditions, all kinds of stuff happening on Patreon. So I'm putting all my research into these documents, and then they're basically, if you were to ask me what I would do if I had that condition, I could just refer you to that document. So we'll also be doing lives on there as well, and we'll have archive recordings of all kinds of different information. Really cool. So I'm really excited about this. So join us on Patreon. We're going to be launching in either December of 2022 or January of 2023. I'm not sure yet, depending on lots of different factors, but we're getting really close to launching all of these protocols, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So join us there. It's going to be just a monthly charge, but you won't get charged until we actually officially launch. So it'll be kind of like a placeholder. So I'll put a link to our Patreon at extremehealthradio.com/754, which is today's show page. Thank you guys for listening. You guys rock. I appreciate all your reviews and buying through our Amazon link and supporting our store, biochargeme.com. You guys are awesome. So I really appreciate you listening, sharing with your friends, and all that good stuff. So I appreciate you a lot, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.
No material on this blog is intended to suggest that you should not seek professional medical care. Always work with qualified medical professionals, even if you educate yourself in the field of live food, nutrition, and alternative medicine. I'm not a doctor, nor am I offering readers medical advice of any kind. None of the information offered here should be interpreted as a diagnosis of any disease, nor an attempt to treat or prevent any disease or condition. While information in this blog is discussed in the context of numerous conditions, it can be dangerous to take action based on any information in this blog or to start any health program without first consulting a health professional. The content found here is for informational purposes only and is in no way intended as medical advice, as a substitute for medical counseling, or as a treatment/cure for any disease or health condition, and nor should it be continued as such. Always work with a qualified healthcare professional before making any changes to your diet, prescription drug use, lifestyle, or exercise activities. This information is provided as is, and the reader/viewer assumes all risks from the use, non-use, or misuse of this information.